Picture this. Your alarm goes off, you drag yourself out of bed, but that burning, driven, almost unstoppable energy you had back in your 20s, it's nowhere to be found. Instead, there's just this hollow, empty feeling sitting in your chest. For millions of men who've crossed the age of 40, this kind of invisible exhaustion has quietly become their normal. The mental sharpness is gone. The appetite for life has faded. But here's what most men never consider. What if aging isn't actually the problem? By the time you finish watching this, you'll have a clear picture of exactly how sustained intermittent fasting physically reshapes your hormonal system from the inside. You'll see how it shields your muscle tissue, helps your body actually absorb and use testosterone the way it was designed to, and flushes out the internal buildup that has been quietly draining your energy and suppressing your hormonal health for years. To really get why your energy keeps hitting a wall, let's use a simple picture. Imagine a massive corporate building. The head office, your brain, is sending out urgent instructions to the production team downstairs. It needs them to ramp up hormone output right now. But the building is absolute chaos. Alarms going off, phones ringing, staff shouting over each other. Nobody can hear a thing. The production floor completely shuts down, not because the order was never given, but because the message couldn't cut through all that noise. That's precisely what happens inside your body when you follow the old advice of eating 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day. Every time you eat, your body releases insulin to process that food. Insulin is essential, but when it stays elevated all day long without a break, it creates so much interference that your body's natural hormonal signals simply can't get through. Your brain is constantly trying to tell your body to produce testosterone, but those repeated insulin waves drown the message before it arrives. All the raw materials are sitting there waiting. The production line just never gets the green light. Intermittent fasting changes the entire situation. When you squeeze all your eating into a single 8-hour window, you give your body 16 straight hours of complete quiet. During that fasted period, insulin drops back down to its natural resting level, and with that silence, the signal your brain sends finally travels through clean and clear. Your body's internal communication works the way it was always supposed to. Now, here's something important that trips a lot of men up when they first start. In those opening 2 weeks of fasting, things actually feel worse before they feel better. Energy dips, mood shifts, drive feels like it's gone underground. Most men look at this and assume the whole approach is backfiring. But knowing the biology of what's actually happening is what separates the men who push through from the ones who quit too early. When you suddenly change your eating pattern and cut off that steady stream of incoming calories, your nervous system reads the situation as a potential food shortage. As a protective response, your adrenal glands begin pumping out cortisol, the body's primary stress chemical. Cortisol and testosterone work in direct opposition to each other. Since the body's top priority is always survival, a sharp rise in stress hormones automatically pulls reproductive and performance hormones down temporarily. The body's essentially deciding that getting through what it thinks is a famine matters more right now than building muscle or keeping your drive high. Researchers call this phase an adaptive stress response, and this is exactly where the overwhelming majority of men give up. They hit this temporary dip, decide something is wrong, and go straight back to eating around the clock. But that cortisol surge is not permanent. It's just a biological transition period. Once your system figures out that food isn't actually disappearing, that you're simply eating on a tighter schedule, the alarm switches off. By the 3rd and 4th week, cortisol settles back down, the seesaw balances out, and the temporary suppression lifts. What gets revealed underneath is a hormonal system that has been quietly recalibrated for far greater efficiency. And that efficiency matters enormously, because having testosterone in your bloodstream means absolutely nothing if your cells can't actually respond to it. That's the piece most conversations about male hormones completely miss. Think of your muscle cells and brain cells as rooms with locked doors. Testosterone is the key, but it only works if it can fit properly into the lock. The problem is that years of poor diet choices and excess body fat essentially jam those locks with biological residue. The key is there, the door just won't open. This is why some men go through testosterone therapy and still feel exhausted and flat. They're just making more keys for locks that are blocked. Fasting steps in and acts like a deep internal cleaning. It clears out the buildup, unpacks those receptors, and gets them working again. Once that happens, your cells start pulling in testosterone with full efficiency. So even if your hormone levels look identical on a blood test before and after, your body is now extracting every last bit of value from what's already there. A normal testosterone level suddenly starts performing like something much more powerful. The mental clarity returns, the physical energy comes back, the drive re-emerges. Not because your levels changed, but because your body finally started actually using them. Now let's talk about the other major piece that most people fear: losing muscle. If testosterone is what draws the blueprint for male vitality, then human growth hormone is the heavy equipment that actually does the building and the protection. The fitness industry has pushed the idea for decades that if you go more than a few hours without protein, your body will start eating its own muscle for fuel. Clinical research simply does not support this. What studies on fasting consistently show is that going without food for an extended period actually triggers a massive spike in human growth hormone production. In some documented cases, fasting for just 24 hours resulted in HGH levels surging by over 1,000%. This makes complete evolutionary sense. If our ancestors lost their muscle mass every time they went a day without food, humans would never have made it this far. Growth hormone acts as a biological lock on your lean tissue. It prevents muscle breakdown while simultaneously directing your body to dig into stored fat for its energy needs instead. When your cells are primed to respond to testosterone and your growth hormone is surging at the same time, your body enters a powerfully anabolic state. You hold on to your existing muscle, and when you do eat after your fasting window closes, your body uses that nutrition to build tissue more efficiently than before. But even all of that work gets undermined if there's a quiet, steady drain happening somewhere else in the system. Think about a slow, hidden leak in the plumbing of a house. A few drops every day doesn't seem like much, but over months and years, that water quietly rots the structure, grows mold, and weakens the entire foundation from underneath. You can keep repainting the walls, but the house keeps deteriorating until you fix what's actually leaking. For a lot of men past 40, their own stored body fat is doing exactly this, quietly siphoning away their hormonal foundation day after day. Visceral fat, the kind that sits deep in the abdominal area around the organs, is not simply passive storage, it functions as an active hormonal organ, and it's densely packed with an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase has one job. It takes circulating testosterone and chemically converts it into estrogen. The more visceral fat you carry, the more aromatase your body produces, and the faster your testosterone gets converted and lost. This creates a cycle that feeds itself. Lower testosterone makes it harder to shed that deep belly fat. More belly fat drives testosterone even lower, and so it continues. Long-term intermittent fasting is one of the most direct ways to break that loop. Because your body relies on stored fat as its primary energy source during the fasting window, it begins burning through visceral fat specifically. As that fat reduces, the aromatase output drops with it. The conversion of testosterone into estrogen slows down. The leak gets sealed. The testosterone your body is producing actually stays testosterone. Your ratio of testosterone to estrogen shifts back toward a healthy, optimized balance, and that shift alone has noticeable effects on mood, body composition, and overall energy. Once your hormones are being produced, protected, and no longer being siphoned off, the final piece of the puzzle is getting them delivered properly throughout your body. As men age, blood vessels gradually stiffen and low-grade inflammation increases. This reduces blood flow and oxygen delivery, and that decline quietly contributes to fatigue, slower recovery, and diminished physical function in multiple areas. Fasting has a meaningful healing effect on the vascular system. When your body isn't occupied with constant digestion, overall inflammation begins to drop. The inner lining of the blood vessels gets a chance to repair itself. On top of that, fasting increases the body's natural production of nitric oxide, a compound that relaxes and opens blood vessels wider. When circulation improves, testosterone and other hormones travel through the body more effectively. Muscles receive more oxygen and nutrients during training, which speeds up recovery. The brain gets the blood supply it needs to maintain sharpness and focus, and improved circulation benefits physical and sexual health directly by ensuring that every tissue and system in the body is actually receiving the hormonal signals it needs. Long-term intermittent fasting works as a full system reset. It brings insulin down to a healthy baseline. It restores cellular sensitivity so your hormones actually get used. It protects lean muscle with a surge in growth hormone. It eliminates the fat tissue that was converting your testosterone into estrogen. And it heals the circulatory system so your hormones can reach every part of your body that needs them. The result is clearer thinking, more stable energy, better physical capacity, and a return of the drive that felt like it had quietly disappeared. Your body was not designed to run on empty. It was built to function with real energy and real vitality. Fasting helps it get back to doing exactly that.